Ruia, ruia, tahia, tahia. Ruia, ruia, tahia, tahia. Kia he mo ake ko te kākoa kia here mai ki te kawau koro ki. E tā taki mai ana I roto I tana pūkoro hai karo he kūaka. He kūaka mā rangaranga. Ko tahi te manu I tau atu I te tāhuna tau atu. Ti hewa Maori ora. A tuatahi me mihi atu nei ki te runga rawa nāna nei ngā mea katono reira tēnā koe, tēnā koe, tēnā koe. Huri ake nei ki a rātou, ngā tini o ngā mate, aia hapū, aia iwi, aia marae. Nō reira ngā mate, haere atu rā ki te kāinga tūturu o ngā tūpuna, takahia te ara ki te rerenga wairua, ki Hawaii ki nui, Hawaii ki roa, Hawaii ki pāmāmā. Nō reira ngā mate, haere atu rā, oki mai rā. Me hoki ngā whakaaro ki a tātou te hungora, ti hewa Maori ora. E tū ana tēnei ki te mihi atu ki a koutou I tēnei ahiahi, aha ko nohea, aha ko kōwai, nei rā te mihi atu ki a koutou I raro I te mana nei, o ngai tua hūriri, te mana whenua o tēnei rohe, o ngā hapū, ngā runaka katoa, o tēnei rohe, mai ngā tiritiri o te moana, tai atu rā ki te tai o Mahānui, ara, ngā Pākehi whakateke o Waitaha, te rohe nei, o Ngaitahu Ngāti Māmoe Waitaha, ki a koutou Ngaitahu Nui Tonu, nei rā te mihi māhana ki a koutou I tēnei wā, no reira tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. E tūake hoki ki te mihi atu ki tā tātou nei tuahine, tā tātou nei rangatira, e Suz, nei rā te mihi, aroha te mihi miharo ki a koe, I tēnei wā, ko koe te pau, I karanga mai ki a mātau I tēnei wā, nāu I karanga ki a mātau, no reira tēnā koe, tēnā hoki koutou, ki tō whānau, ki a koe hare, ki tō whānau, tō mokopuna, tō tūngāne, ko tai mai, ara, tō māma, tō pāpa, koutou katoa te whānau o tēnei rangatira, he mihi miharo tēnei ki a koutou, I tuku mai, tā tātou nei rangatira I tēnei wā, no reira e whai, e pā, koutou katoa, tēnā koutou, hurino, tēnā no tātou katoa. Ki a koutou te whānau nei, he mihi whakawhetai tēnei ki a koutou I haramai ki te tautoko, te koro I tēnei wā, mō tō tātou nei tuahine, tā tātou nei whaia I tēnei wā, nei rā te mihi mata kuikui ki a koutou katoa I tēnei wā. E hara tēnei te koro tino roko, tai mai koutou, ki te whakarongo ki a Suz I tēnei wā, no reira tēnā koutou. Tēnā koutou, a huri no, tēnā no tātou katoa, ka hoatu au te tokotoko ki te whare wānango o tākau I tēnei wā. Nō reire, te rangatira, nau mai harama. Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou koutou. Ko Paul Brunton aho. My name's Paul Brunton and I'm the PVC for Health Sciences at the University of Otago. And firstly, I'd like to welcome everybody here today to this inaugural professorial lecture for Suz. I particularly want to welcome her whānau and family, and for those people joining us virtually in Zoom and in the overspill room. This must count as the most well-attended IPL I've ever spoken at, and it's fantastic to feel the energy and the support in the room for Suz. Normally the Vice-Chancellor would be here, but unfortunately she can't be here today, and she does send her apologies and extends her very best wishes to you and your family today. To become a professor at the University of Otago, I describe it sometimes as almost impossible. It's quite an arduous process, as you know, to go through the process, and we've just done the professorial promotions round for this year. The standard is extraordinarily high to become a professor at this university, and today is a celebration of Sue's achievement and her introduction to her community as a professor. And without more of ado, I'll pass to the Dean, David Murdoch, to say a few words of introduction. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Nā mihi nui ki a mana whenua o tēnei rohe, nai tuahureri. No mai haru mai ki whanau o Suzanne. Nā mihi nui ki a tatou katoa. Ko David Murdoch aho, ko te Dean o tēnei kura. For those who don't know me, my name's David Murdoch. I'm the Dean and Head of Campus here at the University of Otago, Christchurch, and a big, big welcome from me. And I was going to make the same comment about breaking records because I think this is the most well-attended IPL we've probably had. All inaugural professorial lectures are special and a source of great pride, and this is certainly no exception. It's wonderful to see so many people here today, and my role in this is one of the more pleasurable roles I have as Dean, which is to introduce the speaker. And my writing instructions are to be short and not to steal the thunder from the speaker. So I'll try and do that, and I'll just really hit on some high notes, and there are plenty of them talking about Suze. Suzanne is of Ngāti Kahungunu, hails from Nuhaka, which if you don't know where that is, you probably should if you know Suze, but Northern Hawke's Bay, and is a registered educational psychologist. Suze trained and studied first at the University of Auckland with a bachelor and master's degree, graduating in the mid-1990s. She went on and studied for a postgraduate diploma in educational psychology at Massey University in 1999, and shortly after made the wonderful and I think very sensible decision to come south and moved to Christchurch and joined the University of Otago on this campus, first as a lecturer in what was then the Department of Public Health and General Practice. Her journey from that time has been full of impressive achievements, and I thought I'd just run through some of those. Shortly afterwards, and I think it was about 2004, she was very instrumental in the establishment of Mihi, Māori Indigenous Health Institute, which of course is one of the jewels on this campus. And she was the founding director, and in fact was director until early this year, when that role was taken over by Cameron Lacey. She is also our first ever Associate Dean Māori. In fact, you're our only Associate Dean Māori, and that was a role that was established in 2010. Has been a really, really critical position on this campus. Her career is distinguished by innovation, learner-centeredness, leadership both nationally and globally. She has developed award-winning, globally relevant research and teaching expertise that examines the place of Indigenous health within health education. She has developed, taught and promoted a program that gives medical students an understanding of te ao Māori, the influence of colonisation and racism, and systemic factors experienced by Māori patients and whānau. The ultimate aim is to empower health professionals to address health inequities from within the health system, and she already has left a huge legacy. And to give you a sense of scale, in 2001, when Suze joined us, there were about 3 hours dedicated to Hauora Māori within the medical curriculum, and now we have about over 60 hours in the final 3 years alone, so a huge change. And we are running calculation, we think there are probably about 2,000 doctors have been through the program and have been influenced by it, and we certainly get amazing feedback from the sector about those graduates. Suze has too many awards and distinctions to go through them all, but I'll just point out some. She won the Prime Minister's Supreme Award for tertiary teaching, the Joan Metcher Medal from the Royal Society, many awards from the Leaders in Indigenous Medical Education, the LIME network, both team and individual. She chairs the Health Research Council's Māori Health Committee. She is a director of the Australian Medical Council and is the inaugural chair of their Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander and Māori Standing Committee. And of course, as those who know recently, she was a finalist in the New Zealand Women of Influence Awards last week. When people talk about Suze, there are a lot of words in common: passionate, engaging, motivating, inspiring, connectiveness with community, fun. Suze is a gifted communicator and teacher and creates a really safe environment around her. And in fact, I I was functioning as her head of department for the promotion to professor, and I must say it was probably the easiest one I've had to write, just given such obvious outstanding leadership and accomplishment in all categories. So, in her lecture, Susan's going to explore the role of medical education as a vehicle for addressing Māori health inequities. Suze, we're really looking forward to hearing from you. Please.
Tēnā rā koutou rā rangatira mai hui hui mai nei. Ki te whakanui te rangi whakatihira hira mo aku whānau, aku whakapapa mea hau. Ka mihi o kia koutou, te mana whenua, ngā pākeke, ngā tuakana, moku horangatira mā. Tōtou toko, o uawhi, o mana kitanga, me te aroha e. Ka whakapainga aku huarahi, ke tēnei tūnga, taku tūnga, he tūnga mō mātou katoa. Nō reira, ka re mutu atu mihi ki a koutou. Nō reira, kia ora koutou katoa. You're looking all sparkly. Thank you for being here. I wanted to start today by telling you a story. The day dawn is about to break, and it's early morning on the 10th of September 1985 in New York City. 10 years in the planning, involving multiple iwi and 2 governments, have all contributed to this very moment. A rōpū of 90 from Aotearoa are clustered together in front of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Then a karanga pierces the air. Through the early morning air, the crowd begins to move forward, heeding the call. Then we observe 5 kaumatua leading the group. Individually, they begin to chant ancient karakia, many of them not heard for generations. The Americans fall silent. This is a new phenomenon to them. They are spellbound by the cultural exchanges. It is the first time that Māori have led an exhibition of Māori art. And it is the first time that Māori art has been shown internationally as Māori art. The karakia continues, and the rōpū descends upon the entrance steps, and with ease they make their way through the museum, arriving at the upper exhibition area. With care they enter the room, 2 toa with taiaha leading the way. The ihi, the wehi, and the room is overwhelming. Tears flow freely. The anticipation reaches a climax as the view of the room opens up, and of the 174 artefacts holding the Maori of Tipuna, marking the legacy of multiple lines of whakapapa, they come into view. Legacies that have been denied, forgotten, buried due to the impacts of colonisation. Legacies now positioned with care and in perfect lighting to project their mana. Their legacy now illuminated, the tears continue to flow. No words can actually truly capture this moment, this feeling, and yet the exhibition is simply called Te Māori. The Te Māori exhibition gained huge media attention both in the US and here in New Zealand. This raised the profile of Māori as an Indigenous community and provided a stage which valued for the first time the talents and contribution of Māori. This also occurred at a pivotal time in New Zealand history, when iwi were calling for the Crown to respond to the continuing negative impacts of colonisation and the impacts that these had on the determinants of hauora. It was a call to address the discrimination in health, education, housing and justice systems. This included the need to protect the revitalisation of te reo Māori and tikanga Māori. I want to highlight 4 specific outcomes of the Te Māori exhibition that stood out for me. The first, Te mana o te tikanga Māori. This outcome is signposted by the role of Māori cultural values, practices and protocols that were put into place to ensure that the mana of the taonga and their descendants were upheld. Secondly, Te mana o te Maori. This outcome was signposted by the acknowledgement that taonga possess a Maori, the essence of life, and therefore each taonga has a whakapapa that intricately links to living descendants. The third thing I learned is te mana o te kaitiakitanga. This outcome was signposted by the acknowledgement that Māori guardianship over this project was actually key in maintaining its integrity, and to have a process in place that would continually monitor its acceptability to Māori stakeholders. And the last is Te mana o te iwi Māori. This outcome is signposted by Māori having a platform to have their voice, culture, identity and intrinsic values as Māori, as tangata whenua, recognised. To me, these 4 outcomes represent pou. Pou are pillars, and they maintain the integrity of each building. In whare whakairo, or carved meeting houses, the pou are adorned with art, recording our tipuna, their talents and their legacy. I've been involved in Māori health for many years, maybe too many years, and I'd like to discuss with you how these 4 outcomes as pou also record our team's tikanga and values. So this first pou is named Te mana o te tikanga. You will note that the tipuna holds a tuki in his hand. A tuki was used to carve out the beautiful pou in our whare whakairoa. However, the tuki also symbolises courage and strength in the times of adversity. In the Te Māori exhibition, we noted that appropriate cultural values, practices and protocols were needed to maintain the mana of the taonga within the exhibition. And in health, this is signposted when we use kaupapa Māori methods to ensure we maintain a strength-based focus on our Māori communities and include a critical lens of both the Crown and capitalist agendas. Our team has been strongly influenced by both historical and contemporary Māori influences who have actively demonstrated the importance of applying a decolonised lens to all of our mahi. This has meant constant reviews of our research and our teaching methodologies, epistemologies, paradigms, methods and andragogy to ensure they validate Māori values, beliefs and experiences and knowledges. It has led us as a team to use language that then reflects these paradigms, including that actually being Māori is not a risk factor, but it's a marker of exposure to risk factors. That the whole role of research and teaching is to align with Māori community aspirations and expectations. It is not to impose further burdens or responsibilities on our communities. That we should never refer to Māori as being vulnerable, but instead we should focus on critiquing the systems that create and maintain vulnerabilities in our communities. It has led us to utilise a critical research theory, which critiques Western science algorithms, formula assumptions, encoding techniques, and quantitative and qualitative research, as they are all laden with colonial bias. And it pushes us to articulate how our methods align with decolonised theory and how this influences the outcomes of our mahi. It has led us to consider how we disseminate our findings to ensure that we don't reinforce colonial and a deficit-focused theory, that we provide clear solutions to address health equity, that our recommendations are targeted at the institutions that hold power and resources to achieve health equity. And if these systems would just be bold enough, we could actually accomplish health equity. And lastly, to present the information in multiple formats so that stakeholders can benefit from our mahi. Now, from this po and the lessons learned from it emerges our second po. So this second po is named Temanuel Te Maori. And the Te Maori exhibition, this was acknowledged, that taonga were acknowledged to possess Maori, and therefore each has a whakapapa that intrinsically links to living descendants. In health, this is signposted by clear acknowledgement that hauora Māori content, Māori research projects, and all of our service activities possess a Māori because they are connected to whakapapa and intricately linked to us as living descendants. You will note here that this po holds 3 kite, representing teaching, research, and service activities. Firstly, let's talk a little bit about our teaching. Our team has been acknowledged nationally and internationally for our teaching. When we teach, each scenario has a whakapapa. It tells a true story, one of either one or multiple patients or whānau. The very purpose of the hui process and the meihana model as decolonising tools are to support clinicians to approach patients and whānau as taonga within the health system and ensure that they are treated with the same respect that those taonga from the Te Māori exhibition were treated with. Māori patients have reported that our students and our grown-up graduates have provided them with culturally safe care within the health system, and this actually has resulted in them feeling valued, better informed, having access to diagnostic tests and treatment options, and more confident to make decisions about their care. Māori health stakeholders, of which many are here today, have reported, or they ring us, or they email us, or they just, or we stalk them, but they've been, they have told us so many wonderful stories that demonstrate how our students and our graduates positively contribute to the culturally safe health environment within our district health boards. I want to ask you a question now. Can you stand if you have ever been taught by our team? Can you stand if you have ever been involved in our teaching, both here or in the community? Can you stand if you have ever been a Māori patient that has let our students interview you? Can you stand if you have been an academic member of our team? Can I say to you, thank you for contributing to the Māori of this po. Ka mihi. The second kite is that of research. When we research, the focus of the research has a whakapapa. It is connected to the Māori of patients and whānau who want hauora and perhaps have not got it. Within our years of research, we have found that Māori do access care and want access to best quality care. But we have also reported that the evidence shows us that external factors like poverty, racism, and the health system have a greater impact on health outcomes than any internal factors. We have reported that lack of access to quality clinical care that aligns with best practice guidelines is absolutely unacceptable and can appropriately be measured and monitored to hold both us as clinicians and health systems to account. That there are areas in health where mainstream research still does not have the answers to how we will improve our hauora. So it is important that we draw on mātauranga Māori to assist us to push forward with Māori health advancement. Can I ask you to stand if you have ever worked with our team in a research project? as an advisor, as a participant in our research, as a collaborator in our research, or if I've hit you up for advice the day before the applications were due. Can I ask you to stand if you have been part of the research funding organisations that have helped us out? Can I ask you to stand up if you've ever reviewed one of our applications or publications? I wanted to say to you, thank you for contributing to the Maori of this po. Ngā mihi. The last kite is service. Service activities also hold their own Māori because their kaupapa is all about protecting and advocating for hauora in our Māori communities. Our team does a lot of this, including being involved in health research assessing panels, committees and boards, medical education committees, of which there's many, thanks Tim and Rebecca, presentations at NGOs and community groups, presentations to health professional organisations who can amend their systems and be more responsible to Māori, and mihi to our plunket toropu that are here today. We sit on national working parties or those set up by the ministries to advocate for change with the hope of providing resources or service that might hopefully someday positively contribute to hauora. Can I now ask you to stand if you have ever sat on a committee with our team? I know the MRDK and people here, thank you. Being part of a team or community we have presented or worked alongside. If you've ever attended a hui or conference where you've been subjected to us presenting. Sorry. Can I say to you, thank you for contributing to the Maori of this po. Ka mihi. Now I would like to ask you to glimpse back at this po, because you will notice now that from this, as we look towards this back, from this po and the lessons learnt emerges our third po. Now you will note that this third po holds a fishing net. The net represents our responsibilities to look after those who are in our care. Te kupenga a te hoki was one of my ancestors from Nuhaka, where all great ancestors come from, whose net was said to go from Parangahau and the Hawke's Bay right up into the east coast of Whangarā. This great regional area demonstrated his ability to care for not just the people but the region. So this third po is called Te Mana o Te Kaitiakitanga. In the Te Māori exhibition, this outcome was signposted by the acknowledgement that Māori guardianship over this project was key to maintain integrity and to have a process in place that would continually monitor its acceptability to Māori stakeholders. In health, this is signposted by our team's role to maintain the integrity of our work within Māori communities of which we belong. In this way, the net actually represents our role in social accountability and to have social accountable practice. This enables us to maintain the integrity and the Māori of the work that we do. We do this by ensuring that Māori communities, of which of course all of you are part, many of you are part of the design, development, implementation and monitoring of all our research, teaching and service activities. That we understand and navigate our roles as both insiders belonging to the Māori community and outsiders belonging to an academic institution within a social accountability framework. And that we remain open to critique and feedback, and we get lots, from our stakeholders, not as growlings, but as gentle suggestions that we can still improve, of which we thank all our Ngāi Taua for that. And we hope that we do adjust our mahi to reflect that. With the link strongly formed between the first, second and third po, this final po and the connection between this final po reflects the mahi supported by the first three po, as it bears the outcomes of this mahi. You will note that this fourth po holds in her arms a tamariki mokopuna, denoting the impact of our mahi on future generations. The Mana o Te Iwi Māori and the Maori exhibition was signposted by Māori having a platform to have their voice, culture, identity and intrinsic values as tangata whenua recognised. In health, this is signposted by it being recognised that Māori have a right to health equity in Aotearoa. This means good quality ethnicity data collection being collected. This means data systems that have appropriate methods and tools to allow us and to ensure the monitoring of the Crown's responsiveness to Māori health. This means including the context of colonisation in analysis so that Māori data has its voice. It has its cultural identity and Indigenous intrinsic values recognised. The Te Mana o Te Iwi, however, Te Mana o Te Iwi is only achieved when the right processes, protocols are in place that nurture the essence of the well-being of life with the leadership and management which is invested in the well-being of all whānau. As a team, we have really needed these po, and the strength and the connection between these po has been really important for us over the years to assist us weather the many challenges that continually impact our whare. These include navigating societal and institutional biases that have been socialised by colonial and racist frameworks, needing to critique Western science, which continues to promote objectivity as the only real science, and it has not been explicit about how this lens maintains and promotes white privilege. That high-impact journals do not prioritise Indigenous health, nor any of the research methods that we utilise in Indigenous health research, which highly leads to publication bias. That international forums in teaching and research do not prioritise the value of Indigenous innovations and advancements. That we also, as a team, have a huge role in providing professional development for our non-Māori health workforce. And I want to mihi to all my non-Māori peers here today, who you would have noticed stood multiple times, that they openly contribute to our service, our teaching and our research. We also need to maintain as a team appropriate social accountability while meeting Māori community expectations. Not just Ngāi Tuahuriri, there's some other demands out there and I acknowledge those. We also need to try and contribute to a growing Māori health workforce who need more Māori PhD supervisors, who need more mentoring, who need more opportunities to grow and develop in an environment which nurtures them for who they are as taonga. And you will note, currently in our team, we're quite a small ropu, and you'll notice that we've dialed in some of the students to help make up our numbers today. But we have an incredibly big work agenda. In 1987, it was time for the Te Māori exhibition to return home. The organisers regrouped and decided that the exhibition would go to Pōneke, then here to Ōtautahi, then down to Otipoti, of which I think if John Broughton is watching, he was there, so I need to do a shout out. And then finally up to Tamaki Makaurau. The exhibition was named Te Māori, Te Hokinga Mai, The Return Home. The exhibition created a buzz in Aotearoa that had never been seen before. Māori and non-Māori flocked for the first time to see Māori art exhibited as Māori art, not anthropological documentation of a historic people that once wore grass skirts. Not depersonalised, not dehumanised from their whakapapa, but an acknowledgement of Māori as people, the artefacts as taonga, and the Maori of both. I was very, very grateful to be part of the Ngāti Kahungunu contingent that attended Te Māori Te Hokinga Mai, both in Wellington and in Auckland. When I think of these 4 pou, I think of the pou from my iwi of Ngāti Kahungunu, who took their place within the Te Māori exhibition, and each of these pou are stylised from the pou from our area. Each of them with a precious mauri, each as soon as I saw them, I felt. And I acknowledged our common whakapapa. My challenge to us today going forward is to recognise these pou and their connectedness and their relationship with each other, to acknowledge that Māori are taonga, to understand the role of processes like the Māori Health Advancement Guidelines. I'm not just doing a shout out because I'm on the HRC board, but to ensure that our research, our teaching and our service has a focus on health equity. Remember the importance of being socially accountable to our Māori communities. Demonstrate meaningful changes that result in health equity. As we embrace these pou as a university, a district health board and a community, we will create the wehi, the external energy necessary to activate change in our health environment, like Te Māori activated change in the art environment. It was a privilege to attend Te Māori as a very young girl back in the 80s. It has been an utmost privilege to be here for the last 19 years, to be with the Mihi team and all our whanaunga at UOC and University of Otago, to be present and to be part of the Maori of this work. And it is my hope for the future that I will have the privilege to see the outcomes that reflect health equity. Hau ora, wai ora, Mauri ora, kia ora. Kia ora.
Tēnā rā tātou. So I'm just going to close this up with a karakia. Te inoi tātou. I was going to catch my breath after that, sorry. Yeah, another breath. Ha whakarongo rā e tāne, ki te ahurewa ki te pūkinga, ki te wānanga, ki te taura, ki te tauira. Oh, sorry. Kia tuku iho ngā pū, ngā wū, ngā rito, ngā take, i te ororo, i te ororo. Tēnei rā te whakahu ake, e ngā maunga tapu. Ko te tapu o te rangi, te tāwhito o te rangi. I tākia mai ko te tapu, ko te mana, ko te mauri o ngā tua. I hahaua mai no i o matua kore. Ka whakatākina ki runga ki tēnei taura, kia māhea te hua mākihikiki, Ki runga ki tēnei papa, he papa tātaki no whati nuku, no whati rangi. Tēnā te maranga ki e kere, tā rewa whakatū ki te rangi. Ko eke pānuku, ko eke tangaro, uhi, wero, taumai te Maori. Haumi e, hui e, tae ki. Te ringa tū, te ringa tapu. Te Maori tū, te Maori tapu. Te Maori te whiwhia, te Maori te rawea, te Maori no hea, no runga, no raro, no nuku tū, no mātangi reia. Te Maori o tēnei tipua, te Maori o tēnā areki, te Maori o ranginui e tūake nei, te Maori o papa tuanuku e tākoto, te Maori te pikia, te Maori te kakia, te Maori o ngā tipua, te Maori o ngā tāwhito, te Maori o te kāhui o ngā areki, te Maori o ngā atua, tūturu o whiti whakamaua kia tīna, hui e, tai ki e, kia ora.
Hara mai whānau.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formal parts of our proceedings today. My last duty today is to invite you all to join us for refreshments outside the lecture theatre. to share in further conversations and fellowship. And thank you once again for attending today, which, as I say, is a record IPL, in my opinion, for a whole host of reasons. So thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Suze.
I will say.